Okay, tonight we're going to be talking about the listing process. I'm Rachelle Wilhite. I'm the designated broker and owner of Best Choice Realty, and I've got a process sheet that we're going to go through of kind of the best of the best ideas of kind of go through. If you've never taken a listing before, this would be a great opportunity to go through a process with me. If you've been doing this a long time, maybe this is a refresher, but it might be a review for some of you that have been doing listings. Some of you could probably teach me how to do listings. You guys do a great job out there. So the checklist and website. So a lot of you ask me, well, where do I go to find this checklist? And so we have placed it on the downloads, but many of you have noticed, and I've seen it myself, where I'm like, there's so many good things in this downloads that sometimes some of the good stuff gets lost. And one of the good things that we have is the downloads. And it's a transaction checklist that we built as kind of a recipe for success that we'll go through. And I'm going to go through a live one tonight with you. But the first thing you want to do is you're going to have access to all these websites. If you are from Idaho or you're from Spokane, you might be using a different MLS or a different tax record checker. But all of these things can be used. So bestchoicerealtyhomes.com, nice checklist that you can use. I do need to make one from Idaho, so I apologize for the Idaho folks if you're on the call tonight, but Cloud CMA is available for you. If you do need the login and password for that, let me know. NorthwestMLS.com, Realist, which is a tax record checker on Northwest MLS. I am going to use that, and I've used that in the past. Transaction Desk to do all my paperwork. Online RME to do septic checks. HomeWise Docs if you're dealing with a condo. A good chunk of the condos now use that as a resale certificate provider. So I'll go through some of these websites tonight. And then if you have others that you'd like to add to our typical websites that we check, just send us a little message or in the chat box. Love to hear from you guys tonight. If there's other websites that you use regularly to check on things or prepare for things on your listing. This is not meant to be an exhaustive list, but just to get the process started and get your wheels turning about what we're going to cover tonight. Let's go to the next slide. Next slide. There we go. So one of the things I miss a lot of times is the key box. One of the cool things that I've encountered when I've trained and coached and mentored a lot of listing agents was a presentation. One that stands out in my mind is a guy that used to work with me, and this has been almost 20 years ago. It's going to get up there, but I still remember him because he came in to do a mock listing presentation with me to test his skill set on the process. And I remember distinctly how he did it, and he led with the key box or the lock box. And so he placed it on the counter or the table that we were doing a mock-up interview style. And it was very eye-opening on how he used that key box as a way to assume the close. And he just asked me, if I have extra keys made. And it was like, well, that was kind of bold, but it was very memorable. And so don't forget your key box. Sometimes that can be used as a way to close the seller and show that you're serious and that you have the tools of success to actually take the listing. But as we go over to the right side, this is taken right from our process sheet that you can download from our resource website. The first thing that's on number 1 is to order the trio from your title company. I have many friends from all different title companies, but a trio is what you call a profile. It will have like an outline of what is about the property, what the tax records has, retained as far as that goes. At the legal description, which is needed in Washington State to actually have it attached to the listing agreement to make it a legal document. And then the last vesting deed. Those 3 items are part of the trio, and that's something that you should have before you start engaging a seller in selling their property. It also confirms that the person you're talking with is actually the person that's on the deed or the last vesting deed, and that you have their name spelled correctly. If there's any middle initials or maybe it's a different type of seller or a trust or things of that nature, like an estate, we can get things cleared up before we go through and do a lot of work on the listing by getting that trio from the title company. The trio is different from the preliminary title report. I'll explain what that is in a minute, But that's the number one thing that I always get or obtain before I go on a listing appointment is the trio. So you order from any title company, get that out the door and get that done right away. If you don't get the listing for whatever reason, no harm, no foul. It just gives you in the door and gets you at least the basic information that you're going to need. The next thing you're going to want to do is to meet with the seller, schedule that appointment. So the sooner you can get that appointment scheduled, the better. I always want to be the first one in and the last one out. That's the idea here. And Tara, if you could mute some people too, that would be great. So we don't have some background noise. It's very hard for me sometimes to hear when I'm trying to present and also mute. So you'll want to provide a CMA, and you'll also want to provide, if you've been to some of my listing classes, you'll want to provide a market proposal that gives them a lot more than just a CMA, but you definitely want to have a CMA, especially as we start to go into more of a balanced marketplace. So you can understand pricing. You're going to want to also provide disclosures to the seller. So real estate brokerage in Washington, I purposely crossed it off because that's a new disclosure, and I'm still training you guys that is a different pamphlet than you have in the past. I've talked to other designated brokers across the state, and they're experiencing the same thing that I am in educating all of the real estate brokers in their offices to make sure they're using and supplying the sellers with the correct pamphlets or documents. So real estate brokerage in Washington is a 4-page document that describes your duties as the listing agent for the seller. There we go. Thank you, Tara. It has a green tab. If you're working in Idaho, it's called the blue brochure. So you'll want to provide that to the seller. Or in the Washington state, you're going to be providing them with the 4-page document that says real estate brokers in Washington. Thank you very much. The other thing that you're going to want to do is provide them with the other documents. These are the other disclosures that you may use, and all of these can be found on the MLS. Section C is all of the addenda. In Washington state, there's hundreds, maybe close to 200 documents that are loaded into Northwest MLS. And so this is a helpful hint for those of you who are new to the business on what agreements am I really looking for. And the legal description from the title company would be appropriate, and have it initialed by the seller to make that a binding agreement. So these are all of the things in Section C that you're going to want to grab or have available and filled out. I'll show you how easy it is to do that in a minute. And then the Section D, a lot of you ask me, especially new brokers, do I have to do the listing input sheets? And again, I'll show you the easy way to get into that format. But the listing input sheet is referenced in the listing paperwork, but it is not necessary. It's not something that I will kick back your listing if you don't have the listing input sheet filled in, but it may be a good practice to go ahead and have it started or filled in to your best of your knowledge, and then have an ongoing conversation with the seller, such as what price do you want to list? Are we including appliances? Things of that nature. But the listing input sheet, don't overthink that part, and don't not take the listing just because you don't have the input sheets done. Probably 90% of the listings that I review do not have input sheets. Again, they're using and they're building that trust with that seller. But some of the things to note on the listing input sheet is septic versus sewer, well documents that might need to be gathered, HOA information, and zoning. Those are things that oftentimes listing agents will not have that information readily available, and they'll require, or they'll need the seller to give them input in order to put it and properly market the property. So do not just say, I'm not going to take listings because there's so much paperwork. There really is not very much paperwork if you look at Section C and you realize that's all you need to get out the door and get it on the market. Let's go to the next slide. So I talked about what the trio is. The difference between the trio and the prelim is that the prelim is, you're going to be getting the listing, and they're going to issue you an order number, and it should be very timely. I don't care which title company you contact. I did, just as an example, tonight at 4:11 p.m. You can see my slide on the right here. I sent an email to Team Justine. She's at In-House Escrow because I want the home warranty and the free home warranty that In-House Escrow offers. So I went ahead, sent an email to Team Justine. I said, please order preliminary title with Chicago Title. Here's the address. If you don't have the address, you have the parcel number. That will work as well. You need some way of identifying the property. Let me know if you have any questions. I want to get this listed tomorrow. So we're going to actually do this tonight. Justine, so I sent that email at 4:11. That response time, even without being prompted, was 2 minutes. You've got it, she says. I have the title work ordered for you. Please reach out if you need anything further. And she will go ahead and order the preliminary title as well as the warranty. And that's I'm going to do on this particular file. So the prelim is very easy to do. You just need to connect the dots. The same person you ordered the trio with should be the same, technically the same one you ordered the prelim with. But this is the actual order number, and it gets the process started to connect the names and the people and the situations, and they're the ones that handle the escrow at the end. So order prelim with the company you want to handle the escrow at the end. Let's go to the next slide. So number 3, I'm on step number 3 at this point. You'll want to then, once you get all the documents filled in, you're going to want to submit the paperwork to Best Choice Realty for review. We will notice if there's anything that's missing, or if you're missing signatures, or you're missing the date. I made a mistake. I was going too quick, and I put the date as expiring the same month that I took the listing. Oopsies. So those types of things can get reviewed and also evaluated by our team, our transaction support team, in case you miss something that's a little bit glaring, and we want to make sure you have a valid listing agreement. So submit those to the company. Number 4, order a preliminary title and open escrow. If there's a septic, you'll want to make sure that the seller arranges for the septic to be pumped, and you can start the application with the county if the county has a process for doing so. It fast tracks your transaction. It does help you in keeping any unknown areas that of maybe some defects with the septic. It gets ahead of some things that may be problematic for the seller in the future. So always recommend getting that stuff done ahead of the listing, if possible. If there's an HOA, if it's a condo, if it has a homeowners association, even some of those developments, be sure that you know where to locate the CC&Rs, or if you need to click on a link that the title company provides you to download those CC&Rs or have them readily available. Many buyers agents look for that information and oftentimes will review with their buyers and suggest that they waive. So the more you can get ahead of some of those documents, the better it will be for your seller. So the septic and the HOA should be ordered ahead of time if possible. Number 7, marketing the listing for sale. You can go to bestchoicerealtyhomes.com, or a lot of you check on Facebook, which is fabulous. You guys are super good at giving great vendor referrals. I personally have used window replacement contacts, deck replacements, handyman that you guys have supplied through the chat in Facebook. So continue to do that. It's great resources that we can have available. Staging scheduled, scheduling photographers, ordering the sign installation, listing input into the MLS, marketing remarks drafted, uploading the supplements, creating the just listed postcards, printing, mailing. I've been doing about 50 to 100 around my listing. That's what I'm doing to do my postcard. And I'm finding that I'm having good success with that at this time. So when other people are pulling back on marketing, maybe because they don't have the money to do so, that's when you need to go ahead and jump in and spend the money for some of that marketing. It only takes one client or a neighbor to reach out and say, I have a friend that's interested in buying that, or I am interested in selling my house once you get done selling the house that you're going to be listing. It only takes one. So to pay for that kind of campaign, you might want to get in a regiment of doing just listed postcards again, or mailing something out when you do take a listing. You'll want to create some flyers and have those printed and readily available for any future buyers or neighbors. Social syndication is something that a lot of people ask me about. Is my listing syndicated out to John L. Scott and to Windermere and Sotheby's and things of that nature? And the answer is yes. Automatically through our MLS, we syndicate listings out to these various cooperative brokerage firms. But things like Zillow, Redfin, other online portals that you may run into, it may require you to create an account and let it go, make sure it's correct. And we don't have control over some of those syndications. However, we do have control over Facebook and some of those others that are third-party portals. And that's something that if you wanted to pay for that, we could do it for you. And again, it's very affordable to do. Or you can do it yourself. Make sure that it's socially syndicated on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, things of that nature. That is being trafficked. And we've had great success with that syndication as well. It also shows your seller that you're doing something on their behalf, which also bodes more for trust and helps them to understand that you're not leaving any stone, every stone is left unturned, or whatever the phrase is. I start talking and then I lose my train of thought, but you get what I'm saying on that. Schedule open house and brokers open. Too many of you guys are scheduling open houses last minute. I'm promoting that on MLS that gets, again, syndicated out to other brokerage websites. The sooner you can schedule your open house, the better it is for the person hosting the open house for you, and also for you to get more eyeballs on your listing. So do it as soon as possible if you can. When you take the listing, is make sure you get that schedule, and that gives people enough time to prepare. If you do it the day before, you have less time to go knock on doors, less time to get more eyeballs on the listing, and less time to syndicate. So the sooner you do the scheduling, the better it would be. Let's go to the next slide. So these are an example of supplements, and this is an example of a supplement upload process that's done correctly. Many of you, and I've looked at, I think, a sample set of about, I think 40% of our listings need to do a better job at when we upload the supplements that we label it correctly. This would be an example of labeling correctly, where it actually spells out legal description, 22J. It's frustrating as a buyer's agent to be able to go into transaction desk and I have to load in the supplements, right? And I'm putting the package together to send to my buyer for signature. Listing agents that do this type of work make me very happy because I know I don't have to do a lot of work and uploading it, click on it. Okay, what was that? What is that document? It's just a lot easier for that buyer's agent to create an offer and to not have to do more work than it's not needed. So if you upload them correctly and label them correctly, it will look like this. If you don't, you probably look a little bit weak or a little bit more, I'm going to say it, you know, look a little bit lazy if you haven't labeled correctly and you've got it looking like this. Let's go to the next slide. Online RME looks like this. And if you have not used online RME for septic, you can download a lot of things. I have saved a lot of people a lot of money, even buyer's agents who are wanting to do a check to see if what the listing agent is saying is correct. They can verify a lot of things on their own by going to online RME, looking up the county, the state, and putting in the street number, and they can see what has been filed, what has been ordered, what company did the test or did the pumping or did the inspection, and they can see records. A lot of times you can find some of the old records too on online RME. Is this 100% correct, like 100% accurate as far as, you know, the amount of documents that are loaded? No, but I'd say it's pretty dang good. I would say give or take 90% accuracy. I'll take that any day as a portal that you can go to get access to septic information on various properties in all over the state of Washington. So I love this online RME. HomeWise, go ahead, next slide. It's great. You can log in. You would have to create a login. A lot of people ask me, okay, well, if I have to order the resale certificate, is that my cost or is that the seller's cost? And in the purchase and sale agreement, it does say that it's the seller's cost and the seller is responsible for ordering it. However, you could create your own login and password and order it for them. Escrow or the title company will need to go ahead and get a copy of the receipt. If you end up paying for the HomeWise documents, it could be a few $100s. You can be reimbursed for that fee at escrow. You just would need to make sure that you give it to escrow so they can put it on the closing statement. And the seller would then pay or reimburse you at the close. Great way to track the order. Next slide. Yep, you're reading my mind, Tara. This is the actual real list. So when I'm going to be taking a listing, I do want to check real list and just to kind of see what has been posted. What does the tax record say this property is? Now I've toured the home. I know it's a fixer-upper and it's going to be just a cash offer because of the condition. Love the location, great quiet location in a nice pocket of South Seattle. But this is where I can verify some of the key things like square footage, tax ID number, what is the assessed value. I can get all that information on Realist. I don't pull my comparables from this. I pull my comparables from the actual MLS because I don't want to miss something, and Realist will only pull a certain amount based on the way that they pull data. I like to be able to control that. Call me a control freak, but yes, I do go ahead and pull my own comparables from the MLS. Go to the next slide. I think that was it on the slides. I'm gonna have you...
Just a comment. Realist isn't always 100% accurate. So like on the county records, me and my neighbor have the same floor plan and everything.
Yep.
And it says that she's got a 2-bath house and I have a 1.5 bath house, and we both have 1 3/4. So, and it also says that we have forced air and air conditioning, but we only have cadet heaters with no air conditioning.
Yep.
So
It's not accurate, but it does give you the tax parcel number. So you will need that when you go to transaction desk. So I'm gonna have Tara go ahead, and we're gonna actually do a live one tonight. I think I've got about 5 minutes. You guys will entertain me. I'm gonna show you how easy it is to go ahead into transaction desk. And you notice I have Cloud CMA. I easily put that into Cloud CMA, but we don't have time to go through the Cloud CMA. But if you need login and password, let me know. You have access to Cloud CMA, which makes a pretty presentation for you. But since we've already done that on the checklist, I am on section with my listing. I've already ordered the trio. I've already done the appointment with the seller to go over the CMA. I've already provided the disclosures to my seller. And now I'm in 2C, where I'm going to have to build out all of the documents and the supplements. So I'm going to label it. Go ahead and label it or estate. That's the name of the client. And this is a real one. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how I do this. It's going to be a residential listing. And we're going to import the data. You have two choices. If you've listed before, you can use Matrix, but I'm going to use Realist. And then select the county. It's King County. Okay, perfect. And then we're going to go ahead and put in the tax ID number 0795 001140. Click create. And then the next step would be to go ahead, and it's going to put all that tax data into the system. Now, again, like Tara said, it may not be accurate, not completely accurate, but this will allow me to create the forms and get the supplements ready to go and set up the signing for my seller, who has already sold 4 other properties with me before. This will be her last investment property that she's selling for the Mont H or estate. And so what we're going to do is go over to the right-hand side, Tara. You can use the wizard if you'd like, but I'm going to go right to the forms, down to the forms, perfect. And you can see that we've already loaded the typical agreements that we've talked about in the disclosures, like the Form 1, the 17, the 22K, the 22J, the FERPTA. All of the notices that you may use in the future are loaded right here. So you're going to click on the first one, would be the Form 1A. You're going to fill that in. It saves as you go. So I'm not going to go through actually how to fill out the listing agreement tonight with you. But as you go, at the very top, Tara's, there's a transaction forms. And I want you to click that one. And then we want to go to the next one. So again, you're just going to go through the motions of filling in the forms, clicking on each link, and it saves as you go, as long as you go in through that quick little link at the top of your screen. Might look different if you're on a Mac, but there is a quick link on the Mac as well. Takes a moment as we're zooming tonight, so be patient. And as it's loading up the input sheets, you're going to want to fill in as much as you possibly know about the property. And once you do that, there is a button at the top. So you can see all of everything that has a bubble must be filled in. So I got the King County. See, anything that has a little bubble, everything that has a bubble must be filled in order for it to be an effective document, or before it will save. But you can notice like virtual tour is not necessary, doesn't have it. Go ahead and click on the upload listing and let's see what kind of error. There's always a button at the top right. And it's going to take a moment. Oh, we have to put the area number. Let's go ahead with just 150. Let's see. No, it is 130, sorry. And then the community district would be I gotta figure out where I want. Let's go see that's not South Park. Let's go Top Hat for now. I'll probably need to change that. And then you put the street number in. I think it requires that. That's why it's helpful if you have the little sheet, the property profile, or if you have your realist sheet, so you can grab the address. Let's see if we uploads, will it let us upload that? That little button at the top is very helpful.
No.
Yep. So we have to grab the street address. So we definitely have to grab that from our, there it goes, 11138 Fifth Avenue. We lost you. There it goes. Click on the third tab. There you go. Okay, and then just
But it was 111.
No, that one would go in the street number, 11138.
Oh.
Yep.
11138.
And
Is there a modifier?
Nope.
Direction?
Nope. It's Fifth. 5TH. Okay, and then the suffix would be Fifth Avenue. Okay, perfect. Now let's see if that will upload for us. So a lot of you will still fill out the inputting sheets, or you can print them and have the client. Most of you will usually create it into this spot right here where it automatically assigns you an MLS number and then allows you to go in at your leisure and enter in the appropriate things about the listing that you need to ask questions about. And so Tara is waiting for this to load, but then she'll be able to go in and input things that the seller has told her to market. Go ahead and close that. And if you go to input at the top, where it will end up going is right in here, and we're going to modify. Yep. And it says INC, which means incomplete. So we click on that. And this is where you can add the open house. You can upload the supplements, manage the supplements. Remember, I told you guys to label things correctly. That's where all that goes. So a lot of you are using this as kind of your working document. The one thing I will say, if you're not going to be using the input sheets, please, please, before you hit the live button, I'm going to go live on the marketplace, that you just you email this off to the seller and just give them another look. You know, hey, just wanted to make sure that I'm marketing your home correctly, or the property is as we talked. I mean, just a simple comma, or we messed up on the price, can impact a lot of the syndication that's done. Or if you check the boxes accidentally that we're doing a washer and dryer and the seller changed their mind, again, just having that email confirmation saying, hey, I'm about ready to go live on the market. Please review the listing. And you can email this off to them once you have everything filled in. Okay, so that would be please at least do that. If you're not going to do the input sheets, make sure that you emailed your seller just to make sure they have the last look at the listing. And then this is where you do all of your uploading as far as pictures, moving things around. And again, the MLS does a great job of teaching you how to do this. But I wanted to show you how easy it is for you to take a listing tonight. And there is a process, and that sheet will also give you some instructions once you do receive an offer. What are the typical top producer things that we would be doing once you get an offer, and also once you close, or once everything's, you know, ordering the sign down? What does the TC typically do? That checklist is very helpful in knowing how to do that. Well, I've been talking, Tara's doing the upload of the supplements. I think she's trying to solve a problem for me it's been bugging me. So I appreciate her for doing that. Can you email an incomplete listing? Yes, you can. Guy, great question. Yeah, any other questions you guys have, go ahead and put them in the chat or unmute your line. That's all I have for tonight.
I have a question, Rachelle. This is Susan Miller.
Hi, Susan.
Is it a good idea to tell your seller to do a pre-home inspection, or just wait for the buyer to do it?
Oh, that's a debate.
How beneficial
That's a
is that?
debate for another call, Susan, but it's a great debate that we're having. I would say it depends on the situation. So there's pros and cons to having the seller do the inspection. So it depends on the property type. It depends on who you're competing with. It depends on how you price the property. So there's a lot of things to consider, but there are pros and there are cons by having the seller order a preliminary inspection.
Okay.
So it really comes down to the type of property. If you ever have a question about that specifically, like I've got a house in Redmond that I'm thinking about, the seller's thinking about selling. Am I going to do a pre-inspection on that one? Yes. And the reason being is because of the price point, because everybody else in that area are doing pre-inspections, and I don't want to be the odd listing out there on something like that. Mm-hmm. And I'd rather have the listing go on the market with that inspection because the house is clean. I mean, they bought it only a few years ago. So there's a lot of factors to consider, Susan, but I would say it really depends on the situation. So if you ever question, call, text me, or Candace or Shannon or Tara. We've seen a lot of those debates that you may not have seen, and just having another set of eyes or thoughts on that would be very helpful, whether you do it or not. Great question.
Alrighty, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Questions out there that we didn't cover? Can you share?
The login.
I'll
Did
go
you
ahead and
want-
put that in the chat right now. You bet.
Perfect.
Any other questions you guys have? Go ahead and unmute your line. If you use my account, it's not going to cost anything. Please do not change my password though. If you want your own account, so it has your logo, your branding, all of that, you would need to pay for it. We do have a reduced amount. It's kind of a group account that we can set up. And that would be something you could reach out and ask Tara or Shannon if they can get you set up.
Tara, you have a choice. It's either Fifth Avenue South or Fifth Avenue Southwest.
Oh, okay.
Which is it?
Oh, for the listing,
Yes,
it's south.
thank you.
Yep. Good catch, Patty. Patty knows the area. It's probably right in her backyard.
And you can see the brokers open house tour. Candace will send out that list in the morning.
Okay, great. Awesome. Okay. Any other, hopefully this was helpful for some of you. Others, I'm sorry if it was a review. It's always good to cover some things though of what's working, what's not, what's going on in the industry. So thanks for your questions. Appreciate Jennifer, the heart. You guys have a great week. Stay cool. Have a good one.